We're living in a time where nearly 1 in 4 children in America are growing up in a home without a dad. That means millions of kids are walking through life without the guidance, protection, and love of a dad.
This isn't just a statistic. It's a spiritual wound, a cultural fracture, and a generational chain that keeps repeating.
Today, on the Misfit Message, we're going to be talking about the crisis of fatherlessness, the hard truths, and what that means for our children and our communities. All right, so today we're going to be talking about fatherlessness, and that's a topic that's really close to my heart because I grew up in a single parent household, and I grew up without a dad. I didn't even know who my dad was until I was 15. That was the first time I even met him. I remember, I think I told you whenever I was little, I would like go into stores and see men in stores and like wonder like, is that my dad? Which is like kind of sad.
It is really
like
sad.
it hurts my heart for that little girl, but I can sit here and talk about it today. So we just want to define what fatherlessness is. So fatherlessness is the absence of a biological, adoptive, or consistent father figure in the home, and like why that matters. And the reason why it matters is because fathers provide guidance, protection, provision, and even identity to their children. And so we went and did a little research in the Target parking lot last week.
Yeah.
I
forgot we did that.
Yeah, so it was also in part because we went to Chick-fil-A and we didn't want our kids to know that we went to Chick-fil-A.
They're going to be mad when they hear this.
But
because now they know.
Now they know. If they're listening.
No.
They might not be listening.
If they are, this is where they'll stop.
So anyways, we were there doing our research, and you pull over there. You're like, I want to see how many dads I see coming in and out of Target with their families. And I have to say that like we live in an area now where I see more fathers in homes than I did where we grew up. Yeah. And I think that what we see here is not the normal for America, what the statistics say.
Right.
But anyways, I just want to tell that funny story of that kid that we saw.
They tried to break in our car.
Yes. So we're sitting there in our van, and we get like the best spot to be able to do this research, right? It's like the Lord just opened it up for us.
Research people watching.
And I'm sitting there with my Chick-fil-A soup, and I'm eating my soup, and I see these kids. I don't even know how many boys there were, but I thought there was more than that were like in the cart.
One of them might have been really little in the cart, but there were two that were
like running straight for us, and they're like grabbing hold of the tree, and I'm like, those boys are coming right for us. Like I just felt it in my spirit. And the one little boy runs over to our van door, and he's like pulling on the door. Like, why is it not opening? And me and you were just dying laughing. And he looks up and realizes...
we could see his face and his mom's face in real time. And she's like laughing.
And their van right across from us.
She's like, oh no. And then he's like, oh my God, I didn't know. And he freaked out. Like he was, yeah.
But the bad part is that I wanted to hit the unlock button. So the door would open.
That's how different, I guess,
mothers and fathers. But I feel like that's almost like a fatherly thing. I don't know. But to like mess with kids.
Well, it would be, yeah, but not strangers. Kids, not in the parking lot. He's trying to get in my van.
But his mom,
not a good look at all.
Mom and his dad were both laughing hysterically.
Yeah, they thought it was very funny.
And the kid was, I hope, not traumatized, but it was cute.
Well, it is funny because I mean I've done that. I've almost went and got.
I mean, all white vans kind of look the same.
Yeah. I've tried to open up the car door and there was a person inside and they didn't laugh. Like, oh no.
I think it's different because you're a grown man.
Well, yeah.
And they were a kid.
Yeah, I didn't laugh either. I just laughed. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
But anyways, reeling it back in, I had to share that story because I thought it was funny. So maybe you had to be there. I don't know. Maybe you didn't think it was as funny as we thought it was, but I've laughed about it all week.
I think it was funny.
So, anyways, we just want to touch on these sort of topics. We're going to go more in depth over the next few weeks of what the effects of fatherlessness are on children, on the home, and on the community, because how it impacts us and how it impacts our children, you know, filters out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we're starting to see for several generations now, you know, the effects of what this means for our children. There's so many different factors that are affected. So I have 7 key factors down that we're going to sort of touch on over the next few weeks. So those are emotional and mental health, academic performance, social development, economic and stability factors, risky and criminal behaviors, sexual behavior, and family factors, and physical health.
Mm-hmm.
So those are like the main factors where we see fatherlessness really impact kids, which is basically the whole thing. So do you have anything that you feel like you feel led to touch on?
Well, I mean, there is so much. The amount of notes that have been taken on this subject is overwhelming in itself. But I did do this, and it was just kind of to see what kind of a biblical overview. I don't know if that's the right terminology or not, but like what are the principles or the calling of men? All right. And there was 2 main things, but then the second one came with obviously what it was doing. First was that we were created in God's image.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second one was we're giving those responsibilities, and those 3 main ones, and that's leadership, provision, and protection. And there is an emphasis on basically leaders in the church to do this, to have provisions and to protect spiritually, but there's a larger emphasis on the family.
Yes.
To be the spiritual leader and physical protector, provider, and just to lead the home in such a way. And so basically be the Godhead for the home, not just the church.
Yeah. And I feel like for like a lot of men, I don't know, I've never been a man, so I can't say, but I just, from what I've experienced, I feel like for most men, like the physical protection aspect comes kind of naturally.
Yeah. I think for most, I think it does. So yeah.
Yeah. So then I feel like the hardest area, I feel like where men, I want to say deceived, is in that leadership.
Well, even in the protection side, it can be everything can be abused.
Yeah.
And I think that we're in a time where masculinity is categorized as toxic in most cases. Not maybe not in most cases, but in a lot of the traditional.
Well, there's been a cultural.
Well, it's to where you
like
hear a
call
lot more
to
women
call it toxic.
Say that they don't need a man. Right? They can protect themselves. They can provide for themselves and all that. And sure, women are geniuses. Y'all are way smarter than we are. But again, back to the biblical principles of these things, and you can see it with humanity and the culture that we have in America, and how it's obviously taken a shift because I mean we're not in the same place as we were, and it's not all bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think overwhelmingly it hasn't been for the greater good of things.
Yeah. And I was telling you as I was reading through the story in Genesis of Adam and Eve, and that like woman's fallen nature is to control, and man's fallen nature is to be passive. And so I think that we're living in a time where we're seeing a lot of that fallen nature be played out on the public stage and even in culture, and those men are sitting back and taking a more passive role within what they're actually called to do.
Yeah, and I mean I can see that I mean I've witnessed that firsthand, that my mom did doctor's appointments, stuff with school and everything. Basically, dad's role was
to provide,
go to work and provide money. And I mean, obviously,
provide financially.
Wasn't around all the time to offer that protection, so it's basically financial. So like the financial protection wasn't even the financial leadership either. That was mostly her too, because a lot of that was, well, I work, I this, I that. I'm gonna get what I want.
Yeah.
First, so it was a lot more of, the leadership, provision, and protection for themselves versus us. So.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like my life was impacted in all of these different spheres growing up with a single mom. And that was one thing that I tried to identify with, was that I didn't need a man, because I grew up in a very strong woman-led environment. But then I also saw the effects of this. And I think I told you the other day, like, I feel like for girls that grow up without a dad, I feel like it leads to a lot of like sexual behaviors that are played out in their life. Whereas for boys, I almost feel like it's a bit harder for them to not have that guidance of a man in their life. And I saw that growing up with my uncle.
I'm sorry.
Because we grew up, do you want a bookmark?
No, it's good.
Okay. Anyways, we grew because we grew up like essentially in the same environment, and he was only a few years older than me, and neither one of us had a dad that was in the picture. And I definitely feel like he was affected much more than I was in certain aspects that we're going to like get more into throughout this conversation. Yeah. But for me, I feel like the biggest impact was my identity. And I think that without that man helping to shape our identity, then we don't know who we are.
Right.
It's hard to know who your heavenly Father is because you compare him to the absent one.
Correct.
That doesn't exist, the one that's just far off somewhere and you don't really know. And then you feel like he doesn't really care about you either. But I've always felt like very unimportant and that my whole existence was a mistake and that I wasn't supposed to be here. And because of that, it shaped me into this person that I was not supposed to become. And thank the Lord that he redeems and restores everything that the enemy tries to steal.
Yeah.
But I remember as a little girl in first grade coming home and telling my mom that the girls at school wouldn't play with me because I didn't have a dad. And I didn't understand what was so wrong with me that he wouldn't want me.
And so it put that label on you that you weren't good enough or you weren't qualified.
Yeah.
To be on a certain level.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but also like the day I was born, it was spoken over me because I almost died in my birth. And it was spoken over me that it would have been better had I just died for everybody involved.
Because of there not being, because there was no dad there.
And that was from my dad's mother that she spoke that over me. So I don't know if it was my grandma that called to let them know that I had been born and that I almost died. And she said, well, it would have just been better had she died.
But it was also him. He didn't have a father figure growing up either, correct?
So his story is really sad. So when he was 6 years old, he was left at the movie theaters by his mom. And she never came back for him. He was adopted by this family and suffered abuse at the hands of his adopted family from what little bit of knowledge that I have about the situation. And so I'm thankful now that it feels like it was protection for him to not be in my life. But when you're a 6-year-old little girl,
all of that is realized over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just shows that that's a generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
So him, for one, it sounds like obviously dad wasn't around, or it was just mom who left him there.
Yeah.
So there was no
Right.
no influence or no stability in her life,
Yeah.
because she wouldn't have just done that for no reason. I wouldn't think. I would hope not.
Yeah.
And despite what we can qualify as a good reason or not to leave a child somewhere, whatever happened is happening in that person's life is happening, and however they perceive that is, there's nothing we can do about that. But and then him being hurt, that the damage trail that leaves behind it, and then obviously that passes to you.
Yeah.
And so that's it's just a testament to generational curses, and how if you don't really seek out what issues you have, even if you say you don't, like, I'm a great dad, I do blah blah blah, but there's still places that need work, right? And I think I was just talking about that, was that if you go to church every Sunday and you come home feeling great about yourself, then chances are you're not hearing an honest message every Sunday, because you're not perfect. So therefore something should spark correction, or an area of your life that needs a correction. But speaking of father, I did try to look through, and it's many times where God is described as father, as the father, right? And Old Testament to New Testament, not as much in the Old Testament, only about 15 times in the Old Testament that I could find, but there's hundreds of times in the New Testament. I think it's like 100 times alone in the Gospel of John. But Jesus refers to him as the Father, or his Father, 165 times, roughly. It's a lot of times.
Yeah.
But like, just to see that, God we're created in his image, right? Just like we have children, right? And it's weird how how the genetics work there, how they look like
us,
parts of us. And it's,
or how they act like us.
It's kind of like it should be that way. It's how you would think it to be, but at the same time, like, it's to see another life like that is and what it sparks in me and you as parents, is obviously two different things. I wouldn't say on a different level. Maybe it is a different level of things. We see things differently, obviously. But I was trying to find like the perfect scripture for like how a dad should be and things like that, and it's frustrating because you're like, you got all these words in the Bible and you want them to say your point, right? Like you want to do, and then God doesn't work that way, right? He does things on his time, and then you come around to him. But in that search, part of it was, I was reading, this is in I think Ephesians chapter 6. It says, fathers, do not frustrate your children. I think other translations are, I can't even remember those, but do not frustrate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And at the time, the words training and instruction, that seems like two of the same thing. Why would it repeat itself? And obviously instructions was direction or order, right? So the order of things being, like we said, first was it, provision, leadership, and protection. But then the training part of it is teaching a person a particular skill or a type of behavior. And so that kind of sparked into, how does God behave? And then that took me to Deuteronomy, I think it's chapter 1, verse 31. In the wilderness, the Lord carried you as a father carries his son. And then we have all these places in Exodus, that's what it's referring to. In the wilderness, when they escaped from Egypt, it's kind of funny because Moses is leading the people out, and they're, you're being tracked across the desert. It would suck. I get it, but we feel like if I had just been let out of slavery, through an ocean, by the way, on dry ground, and then my entire enemy was just literally washed away behind me. And then now we don't know if this is days later, because obviously it was 40 years, right, in the wilderness. So we don't know how soon, but they're hungry. So I'm assuming it's pretty soon, a couple hours maybe. But that they're griping about having nothing to eat. They're like, yeah, we're free, but at least as slaves we had food.
Yeah.
And it's like, in Moses, I feel like he reacts in such a way to where like a father can be short on patience. Like, I love you, but I'm about to beat you, kind of thing. And he comes to God and he's like, what are these people you've given me to he's like, these people. And it's like, what we say is like, these kids, bro, like they're too much, man.
And they are.
But
they're not too much.
They're not too much, but they try to be. They definitely try to. They push you. But
parenting's not easy.
Correct.
And so that's why I feel like we see a lot of lazy parenting.
It's definitely easy to be the passive parent.
Yes.
So just with like what we were talking about, the phones, right? You take the phones at night. There's no need to have your phone while you're sleeping. You don't need that.
Yeah.
Or late at night.
And I feel like every good parenting decision that we make for them is like 10 times more work for us.
It's annoying. Well, I mean, and you never remember it until like you're comfortable in the bed and you're ready to go to sleep.
And then you have to go downstairs.
Did you get their phones?
Yep.
No, I did not.
Yep.
But anyway, back to Exodus, he provides manna in the desert, and that's like a bread. It's basically bread, isn't it? It's a bread-like substance.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a wafer.
Right, a wafer.
We could be wrong.
I think that is how it describes it. It's like a wafer. And that's in, I think, verse 4, verse 13. It's quail in the evening. And so it's like, they get bread, but that's not enough. We want meat. And then he provides quail. And I think it describes like a wind comes in and the quail come with it.
Yeah.
And it's like they can just grab them out of the sky. Like
that would be crazy.
By. Yeah. And they're still not happy. Which I can relate to this part. They were thirsty, right? They wanted water. And I think this is in the
you would have been able to eat your quail or your manna.
17, and it says that Moses, each time Moses goes to God and he's like, these people, these relentless people, right? They're whatever. And God he tells them what to do, and he tells them to strike the rock, and water comes out of a rock. And it's like sometimes our kids will look, I feel, and I don't want to be boastful about it, but sometimes they look at me that way with things that they're like, oh, it's broke forever, and then we'll just fix it. And they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I'm not saying it's drawing water from a rock, but in their mind at the time, like, it feels really good to be that.
And I also think that they look at you and they think, he can do anything. And I even do that. Like
sometimes it's not all it's cut out to be.
I feel like I view you as somebody that like can do anything. That's why sometimes I'll bring stuff to you and you're like, what were you thinking? Or like, how is this going to work? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know you can figure it out.
Well, thank you.
So like, I know it's hard being you sometimes because we do just feel like you can do the same thing, make water come from that rock.
I'm gonna be outside tomorrow hitting rocks.
Yeah, anyway. That might be a little bit easier than some of the stuff I bring to you.
But it's also, he guided them. So I think that's the important thing, that he guided them.
Yeah, and
that's what a father should do, and that goes back to the teaching. And obviously, there are countless examples in the Bible where God has overwhelmingly provided, and it's taken for granted most of the time, just as kids would take for granted their fathers. I did the same thing with plenty of the good things he did. But I think that love is so overbearing, right? And I can just think about it from my perspective. Like, I don't know, I don't even remember where I heard this. I think it was a comedian. And it probably wasn't a Christian comedian who said it, because I think he was saying like his son could be stabbing him, and he's like, he's still, the love meter is there. Like, I can't stand you for doing this, but I still love you. But it's like it's powerful. Yeah. And then from a father's perspective, I struggle to understand some of the mindsets behind what some of these guys do, and it's like, none of them that I've really known personally. So obviously I don't know the backstory to everything. And I know everybody has a past. Everybody has a testimony. Yeah. But it's like, if we can, as the church,
just things that we see within our community and within our culture.
Right. Well, I mean, like with media, entertainment being, and it's like, it doesn't push a culture of thriving fathers, right, that are just outgoing for their children.
So where do you think that like fathers are not guiding their children? Like, what areas do you think that they're not guiding their children that we see in culture?
I think a lot of it comes to, kind of how we treat or view women and like objectifying, and just like the music that we listen to, and even now, like the music that the women are singing, like even that is objectifying.
When you say
themselves.
We, not us, because we don't listen to that.
We don't listen to it, but
not anymore.
As the world would see it, right? So secularly, right? Yeah. If and
no, you said that the other day whenever we went to the mall.
And there was a song playing that, like,
and it was a woman artist or a female artist, I guess is the better way to word that. But anyways, the song was like very provocative and really just gross and like what they were saying. And for whatever reason, I had the ability to like cut my ears off.
Well, for one, it's like I get that, like the whole explicit content, right? The parental advisory sticker. And, I used to listen to all that and all the language and everything else that was just terrible for your ears to hear. Yeah. But like when you're playing it in public, right, or on the radio, the thing that you said, every other word is bleeped was that now
out. It's women. It used to just be men talking about these things,
which that's not better. that's
and now it's women,
right?
Yeah.
But it just shows that there's a market for that. Right? There's obviously a desire to hear it, and it's taking that mainstream stage to where, and there's obviously a handful of female artists that do this, and I'm sure everybody will know who we're talking about, but like they fully grasp it. And it's like I don't see that as a quality.
Yeah.
And I was just flipping through and it come right out to married men.
But I bet you, like, if we looked at those women, they probably grew up without dads.
And it's an overwhelming amount, and a lot of it is, poverty is a thing. Money plays into a part, and it's like it's before that too. Like it's the value that one has. So before you even get to the money thing, like one night stands, right? Like you put your lust or your desire over your own worth, right? To where you're willing to sleep with somebody, both men or women decide whoever's made. Obviously, it takes two to do this, and you make that decision, and you just commit for the next hour of your life, and then whatever comes from that is just whatever, and it's like, right.
I came from that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying like, and the impact that has, like. And this was another comedian that was saying that, like, you can't cook chicken in an elevator.
You can't accidentally do it. You can't
bake brownies in an elevator, but you can make a person in an elevator.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this anywhere.
Yeah.
And, like, that responsibility that we have, that, we were made in the image of God, and then we were told to multiply, right, and to create more people in our image, right, to continue and procreate and those things. And, like, that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
Because, like, we're, our whole mission is to make disciples. And,
and to multiply ourselves in the sense of, like, who we are. Like, we should want more of us.
Right. So, like, not just having children,
right.
But the same thing. That goes to the church's responsibility.
Right.
To where, as, Christian families, raise your children up, and like it says, in the way that they should go. And or to raise them up in the training and the teaching of the Lord and the behavior of the Lord, and raise them up in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. And so it's like, my parents didn't do everything perfect. I had my mom and my dad. My mom did the majority of the work. But with them, they got divorced when I think I was 4. I was very young, and like my mom would put the emphasis on going to church more so than my dad. My dad would early on, but then my mom and my stepdad got married in the church, and we don't go to that church anymore. My mom does, but my dad doesn't. And there's some bad things around, or some reasons behind that, and we may get into that later. But the point of it was, it was like we never went to church to grow spiritually. We went to church because that's what you were supposed to do. Yeah, to check a box. And again, it was my mom driving that. So it's like,
Well, I remember whenever I was pregnant with Cabry and Casey, and that church had a baby shower for us. And one of the women came up to me and she was like, well, now that you're pregnant, you need to start coming to church. Like, they need to be in church. And
We're already going.
And I just looked at her and I was like, we do go to church every Sunday. We just don't go to this church.
Yeah.
And I was just
and
like,
it was like a half mile down the road. So
I was like, this lady
church.
doesn't know me and she's just assuming something about me. And it's like, well, why weren't you trying to get me in here before I had kids? Mm-hmm. Is like how I think about that now.
Mainly, we didn't go there.
Yeah.
And it's like her being, and it's like, I'm not going to call out names or anything like that, but just the nature of church I grew up in, that very person was, big in the youth there. And it was only, most of them were my cousins. Like, it was all,
but also had no heart to really like
there was no discipleship
serve or
there. It was
disciple children.
And it's like, a lot of finger pointing and that kind of thing, but no mention of hell. Like, they rarely ever talked about that.
Mine talked about that every Sunday.
It was just you have to do this just because, and you didn't see it acted out.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot of the older couples that were there. They had been married for a billion years, but their kids weren't going to church with them. And so I don't know how many. I don't know the stories to all of those, but I do know that the majority of them were the parents, and a lot of the children, their kids would have been a lot older than me, but they didn't go there. So I don't know if that means they didn't go to church at all, or if they just went to one that they didn't fall asleep in.
Yeah,
that was kind of a jab.
It's real though.
It is. But speaking of that, the value.
Yeah.
Right, back to what we were saying about the value, and I was looking through Proverbs 31. And there's a lot of, I think there's probably thousands of T-shirts with the Proverbs, with this 31 woman, right?
Proverbs 31 woman.
Or wife. And it describes a woman of noble character and lives in complete fulfillment of her obligations, right? And may get into that later on as far as the obligations go. But
some of these women that say that they're a Proverbs 31 woman might want to read through all these things.
Some of it are like, she wakes up before everybody. She goes out and she does a lot of hard work.
It's hard.
Which, if we fast forward to today, a lot of that hard work has been made easier. But
yes.
You got to get up early.
I do get up early, but I don't get up early and make y'all biscuits and breakfast.
And these are not like Bojangles biscuits. These are for real handmade, scratch-made biscuits.
Yeah, she probably had to go out and get the wheat to make the flour.
But it's, hang on, I gotta read.
I distracted you.
Oh, yeah. So it makes a note of all that she does, but then like in the middle of what it's describing, what her roles are, responsibilities, and like her character, it's an emphasis on the respect that she has, or the respect her husband has for her. So it's like he's not expecting these things. Like, you do them because that's your role, right? So you fulfill your obligations to the partnership,
or we do it out of love.
It's a partnership. So I mean, right?
Yeah.
But then it's also that her husband is respected by the town's elders and shows love and support and respect, and has great care for his wife, for he is blessed to have her. And so it's like, it's important to note that, I'm not sure where it's mentioned at, but it might be in Genesis, but it says that, he saw that men weren't fit to be alone. They shouldn't be alone. So he created women for him, right? And I think that's one of those ways where it's been objectified to where, you're mine.
There's actually something that I wanted to
kind of thing,
say
and
about
it's
that.
Kind of put instead of a partnership or something that should be cared for, right? Yeah. Someone that should be cared for. Sorry about that. That it's more of a you owe me kind of thing, and that's not
transactional,
right? Yeah, and it's easy to fall into that because, like to say, the passive man or father, right, would just, if you're doing a better job at it than I ever saw an example of, right? So I just don't know. But what I'm comfortable with is going to work. I'm just going to go to work and let you deal with it. And then that's the other way. And I still expect what's owed to me from you, kind of thing. And that's not an equal partnership.
And it's never 50-50.
Right.
Like, there's always going to be one person in that marriage that at times is doing more than the other. So, like, you can't make it a competition either about who's doing more, because then you're just setting yourself up to have a spirit of comparison, and comparison literally just steals your joy.
Like, it just drives a wedge between you.
Yeah. But speaking of Adam and Eve and the Lord making Eve from Adam's rib. So as I was reading this last week in Genesis, it says that the word rib, the actual Hebrew word for that, more broadly means side or flank. So while it can refer to a rib, it's not exclusively or most common usage of that word. And so what my study was like showing me was that like woman was like made from like the side of man, and like I have this visual of like,
you're my good side.
Yes.
Did I steal that from you? Did I just take that from you? I'm sorry.
You didn't.
My better half.
Yes. But I mean, that makes sense, right? That like, because it says that we become one when we're joined together in this covenant that we've created. And so it was like we were two halves of a whole, and we come together to be one. And so that's why like we're also so different, and we have different gifts, and we have different responsibilities, even like within marriage and taking care of our children, because we're one. Like, I wish that we could, morph into one, but
super parents.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That'd be weird. But just for a visual, like I see two halves. I see two halves like becoming one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and at the same time, that's where that one night stand really hurts you, because you have soul ties. And you have, when a man and a woman join together in that act, that's why it's meant for marriage, because you should already be engaged in that holy, that matrimony covenant, that you have, the covenant between you, you two, and the Lord. And when you step outside of that, then you open that realm to whatever else.
Yeah, and you form ungodly soul ties.
Right. And so that's why you see, like with I guess it'd be boys and girls, but when you have multiple partners, and it's like, I think I've heard this before. I don't think I'm smart enough to put this together, but you start to stack like categories of who these people were, personalities and different traits that they may have, and you start to kind of create a perfect partner that you're looking for out of bits and pieces of each person.
And you're never going to find that.
You're never going to find that. Yeah. And so you just keep going through people after partner after partner after partner.
Which is one reason why I don't like dating culture, is because to me it's divorce culture, because it's like, okay, well, date this person for long enough to find out what their flaws are, and then you just dump them and move on to the next one.
And it was a crazy concept for me, because I mean, we dated for like 3 years before, but like I knew within the first year that I wanted to marry you. But you have,
and I knew that day I saw you put ice in the cooler.
They had to fill them in on that. They were like, what? But just the outside influences that I had, and the others that the advice I was listening to, most of it was unsolicited, by the way.
Normally is.
And people will do that. And it's like,
and also from like marriages that you didn't want to replicate.
Right. And I feel like that's the one, like the people who, like something that you struggle with the most, like obviously you're going to be very well versed and opinionated on it. Now, whether or not that's based in fact, that's the negotiable, but you speak from your experiences. And if you've been divorced 3 times, I probably don't want to get marital advice from you. And if everybody around, they can't stand to be around you, then I'm not going to come to you and for advice like that. And it's that kind of judgment that as a church, I don't know the term or the language to put with that to encourage young people to do that, because like in the world, the culture, I feel like pushes, again, with objectifying. Like, pornography is such a just a stronghold on men and women. Like I always thought it was just men, but it's not. Apparently, it's a
especially this
huge thing with
generation.
exactly. But like that just further muddies the water
Mm-hmm.
to where you have no idea. For one, your expectations are completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
And then two, again, like going through partner after partner, and you're putting together this perfect image that you're more than likely never going to find.
Yeah.
And I think that just makes it even more, steps further away from where you're supposed to be joined as one. It just makes you harder to be able to join somebody in that partnership that is marriage. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that was a long time. That was a lot of words.
No, I feel like we were like going into something else there for a second, but
we'll bring us back.
We're reeling
track.
it back in.
I'm trying to find a.
So we touched on guidance, protection. You feel like you touched on that enough? Provision, and identity.
Well, the identity thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that we talked much about that, other than obviously, we're called to be Christ-like, right? And obviously, we're talking about Jesus, and you see in his examples that he gives how loving he is, how forgiving, and just how he handles situations.
Yeah.
What's the show Chosen? And I think it's when he goes back to, where's it? Whenever he's preaching and he tells them that a prophet basically doesn't have any credit in his hometown, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling them like, I am the Messiah, right? And they're like, oh no, blasphemy. And the show obviously takes some, what do you call the liberties in dramatizations of it, right? So but they're walking him out, and it's like this long scene to where they're walking him to the cliff, right? And they're going to throw him off, and Jesus just goes with him. And it's not wrote out this way in the Bible. It doesn't say that that's exactly what they do word for word, but the way it shows it, I think that describes his character. There's other times where he's in the temple courts and the Pharisees are going to stone him, and they have the stone in hand, and just like this side, when they walk him up to the edge of the cliff, and in the show he kind of steps towards him, and it's kind of gangster really how he does it, but and again, just how it's depicted, he's just like, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like all the things he could have done, what was it Elijah? He's like, I'll call down fire, and he burned them up. But I think one of the disciples asked him, like, do you want us to call down fire? And he doesn't do that. He doesn't. Any of his adversaries,
because he was so sound in his identity that he didn't allow all of these threats of the enemy to come after him.
Right, he was confident, like he knew who he was. He was rooted that he was with the Father.
Because you move different when you know who you are.
Exactly, and I think that's the character that we need to have. All right, and I think in the identity part of it, to where we're called to be Christ-like, to where it takes discernment to know when you have to be stern with your children. You got to be, like some things you can't just, like Casey's thing is like probably. And I think he could be getting ready to launch a rocket into space, and like, are we good? He'd be like, probably. And it's like, that's not good.
You're
that's
like
not,
Mr. Billings.
And I'm like,
we need a little bit better than that.
That's not good enough for me, right? So some things is fine, right? Like, that'll be okay. Is it going to rain tomorrow? Probably. That's fine. But other things, it's not. And it's like, so learning when to be more serious and more playful, and then like the correction side of things, and then just being a good role model. And then again, like how me and you interact with one another. And it shows, both our boys, how they're to treat women, but it also shows our daughter how she should be treated. And
which is something that I had no concept for growing up. So I was like much more willing to just take whatever whatever guy looked at me like, oh, okay, fine, like, whatever. and take this
Mm-hmm.
treatment that I was not, like, I was worth so much more
Mm-hmm.
than what I was willing to essentially sell myself for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I didn't feel like I had any real value.
Mm-hmm.
So I was willing to be devalued by these boys that also had no concept for who
Right.
they were, because
Right.
they were also being raised by
And there was
single
nobody
moms, and
snatching
not,
them up. Yeah.
yeah, and not like they didn't have a man showing them, like, no, like, you should open the car door for this
Yeah.
person. And it's not like weird and awkward. And I remember, this is so crazy. I was driving down Horner Boulevard with my mom, and I couldn't have been more than like 10.
Mm-hmm.
And we were passing by that old Wendy's. You know where that old
Mm-hmm.
Wendy's was. And
Nobody else does, but yeah, we know
it's fine. This is for us. And
yeah, we know where the old Wendy's is.
so that old Wendy's, right? We're riding down
Uh-huh.
the road, and we see this man and this woman come out. And the doctors thought I was going to be 6 foot tall. So my mom always thought I was going to be like super tall. And so the couple that came out, like, the woman was really tall, but the guy was like taller than her. And I remember my mom saying, well, look, she's really tall and she found somebody. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story was that he opened the car door for her. And I remember her saying, you need to make sure you find a man that's willing to open the car door for you. And then life hardens you, and you're
Mm-hmm.
willing to accept you opening the car door for him, essentially, like he thinks he's passenger princess.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing that you try to do for me, is to open the car door,
Yeah.
so that they see, like, and sometimes I'll just stand there.
I can't. I'm just a lady.
Yeah, sometimes, like, if you go and get in the car
Mm-hmm.
and you just walk past me, I'll just stand there.
Yeah.
And you think it's funny every time.
Every single time. It's funny.
And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I don't know how to open doors. I'm just a wife.
Well, but yeah, I mean, and it is. It's like, I expect for Cabri's husband to be, 10 times better than me.
Yeah.
Is what I'm shooting for and praying for. But at the same time, I would expect our boys to have that. And you see that in American culture. It's, again, I've heard it said like this, like when you send your son off to college versus your daughter off to college.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your son's going to be, he's chasing women and all these things. But you never hear that from the other side, that, oh, your daughter's just all the boys she can imagine. Like, you don't hear that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is it okay to release this,
like, try to shape their identity around this toxic, what is toxic masculinity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and I understand where it comes from, because that's what created it, right? So it's kind of like, it's the generational curse, right? We're paying for the sins of our father, and it's not supposed to be that way, right? Each generation should get better, not worse.
But without repentance, it doesn't get better.
Without the church stepping in and saying, hey man, like, you're not doing this right, you need to do this. And it's not, some people need to be slapped upside the head, but other people's don't, or they just need to be told, like, listen, this is your job, this is what you should do, take pride in this, not that. Right. And
for sure,
and again, like, we see that in volunteering in the youth, and seeing that, like, this generation, like, they really are, they're crazy
in a good way,
but some of them are crazy in a crazy way, but some of them are crazy in a good way. But it's like they've seen a lot of the images and the teachings that the world gives, and there's so much uncertainty, and
I think that
whereas you can be this or that, you can be a boy today, you can be a girl tomorrow, you can be a cat if you want to, like, all this. And I think in some realm of mental being, we have to know that that's not exactly true. And it's like, it's a fun world to live in, but at the same time, it's not rooted in reality. And so I think that, and a lot of the people, especially with that affirmation, right? to where your identity is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, that live your truth.
Right, yeah, your truth. And a lot of times your truth
like, no, live
isn't
God's
true.
truth.
And
die to self.
And that's the hard part. That's what nobody wants to see. It's the hardest part is that whatever you want, forget about it. It's not about what you want. And that's not to say that, God just denies you. God rewards you here and there. Right? Unless even I was looking at Job.
I've been reading Job for the last, I'm
is
so over it.
Heartbreaking. It's not a heartbreaking story. It does get very, it's like
I'm in all the speeches right now.
It's like a soap opera gone wrong. But Job is this highly respected, very righteous man.
Yeah.
And I was reading about him, just trying to find out stuff about how to be a good dad. And Job, is
because Job would go and make sacrifices for his kids. It says
that he helped the fatherless, he rescued the poor, he made the widow's heart sing, which I'm sure that's in a good way. He was married, so
I don't know what that means, but
he put on righteousness as his clothing.
Yeah,
and that's how the Bible describes this guy. And it's like, man, I hope someone's like, yeah, Jeremy was great. He put on righteousness for his clothing.
Yeah. And it's important to know that he suffered because he was righteous.
Exactly, right. And it's like, and you can read this story.
Yeah.
But
and it rains on the just and the unjust.
It's almost funny in a way, because it's like, the angels are competing with God, and Satan's there. It's like dun dun dun. And it's funny to see that we view Satan as this overpowering monster that blah 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 blah.
Well, it's actually Satan, which means adversary, and there are many adversaries.
The important thing is God approaches him like he's just Joe Blow on the sidewalk. He's like, "What have you been up to?" Yeah. And he's like, "Well, neither. I'm just been here and there." And he's like, "Well, have you noticed my servant Job?" And it's like, it's like it's like, how cool is it, but how unfortunate it is that you get a shout out from God himself to the devil, right? And then Satan's like, well, if you took away his riches, then he would curse your name. And he's like, well, try it. And it's like, you hear that and you're like, well, what kind of God would do that?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to read the whole story, right? And it's like, Job suffered, but there was a lot of people that were saved through that too. Like his friends that came, I think one of them at the end is like, he's tired of hearing Job's like monologue, like of how righteous he is, because Job knows.
Yeah, because Job's like, no, guys, like I haven't done anything.
He's like, when the poor needed my help, I was there. When the hungry needed food, I fed them. When my kids, it says that his kids, for their birthdays, they would have huge parties. And so every morning he would wake up and pray diligently for them.
And he offer would make sacrifices,
burnt
sacrifices, in case they sinned.
Which is the way for atonement and sins in the Old Testament. But and it says in case they sinned against God. So it's like he didn't even know. But it's like, it wouldn't have been easy, because like you had to kill something and build an altar. You had to build a fire. You had to burn it. This was an all morning thing at the very least. And I mean, I guess he does it all the time, so he's good at it. But
yeah,
the whole point of it is this is a huge effort,
huge sacrifice.
To where like us as men, if we should at least be for a few minutes a day praying for our kids, right? And I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Like you get busy and just complacent, and you're like, well, they're sleeping upstairs in a nice bed and blah 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 that I provided for them. And you forget about that, but you should be in that mindset that I'm constantly praying, because it's not all physical protection; it's spiritual protection.
Yeah.
And that identity that you being the provider and you being there for them when they need you, like for one, that was something that somebody.
And that's part of that protection that's not just physical, because like I was saying, like I feel like for a lot of men, like meeting the physical protection need is like easy for them. But then that spiritual protection might be a little bit harder to do.
And it's almost like that Job is, he's not attacking God. He's not that, but he's basically, as a kid would complain about you making him do yard work. Job is scratching open wounds with broken pottery. So like, it's pretty dramatic, which as it should be. But as a kid would complain to you, like, it's hot, I'm tired.
You're like, I don't want to do the dishes.
And you're like, right. And so he's coming at him with that. And then not that this is how you should correct your kids every time they complain about dishes, but God tells him, he's like, did you hang the moon or the sun in the sky? Did you put the stars in place? Did you create the trees and all that? And he's just reminding him that, he goes, you're dealing with this now. Eternity's way out there in the unforeseen realm, and you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you need to let me do me, and you just be the son and I'll be the father, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's where that trust has to come in. So like, I think you can ask yourself, are you falling in that line? Do they trust you? That could be a big thing, and that's showing the identity that they have with you.
Yeah.
And the protection and everything else comes with that. So
yeah, I think you basically hit on all of
that. Well, again, there's a lot of stuff about fathers, but it is funny though that once you get into kind of like this full circle thing that happens, that God is the Father, right? And He provides, and it's even like for this podcast, like talking about this is obviously an issue. Identity itself is an issue, and not that if we get great fathers back that everything's going to be fixed. That's not what we're saying at all. But it is a starting point.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And I think also, like, I want to encourage, like, the women that are out there raising children on their own, whether it's just because the dad's mentally not there, like he's checked out, or because he's just completely absent out of that child's life. Because I think sometimes they can take that burden on themselves, and
it's find a good church, right?
That's what I was getting at. Yeah,
a good somewhere with a good youth ministry,
and find some men that are willing to step in and be that figure. Don't listen cautious. If they're too eager, step back, because that's a red flag.
And that's what's so sad about it.
Yes, like that the enemy exploits these areas. Like but pray about it. Like pray that the Lord, if that is something that your child is missing, pray that the Lord will send people.
And go with them. I mean, if you're concerned about that go sit in with them. I mean, if they have a problem with you sitting in with them for at least a couple to get to know the person, then that's a red flag.
But I trust that if we pray and we ask God to fill this void that our child has, then He will send people into their life. And I just think about like how you have been that person for a lot of young boys that don't have a dad at home, but they have you. And while you're not their dad, you talk to them like a father would talk to a son, and you correct them when they're wrong, and you encourage them in the different areas of their life. And
Lewis, I was looking as you were saying, it was a few minutes ago, but it was Psalm 67 verse 5, and it says that God is the father of the fatherless, He's the defender of the widows. But the important part of it was that He puts the lonely in families.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of before and after that, it's kind of leading to it's the church, right? So you have this body of Christ, and you take care of the fatherless and the widows, right? So it should be that, and I think you hear people talking about it, that like the homelessness, right? That it's a horrible thing. There are a large number of them that would prefer that because of the freedoms and this and that it comes with, and a lot of it honestly seems like drug addiction is a big driver of this. But like where the government steps in, the church steps back.
Yeah,
and it that's shouldn't be that
so
way.
Many areas.
Yeah, and I mean that's across the board, and it's like the leadership in the church. Men are called to be leaders, but it's like you can. But
a lot of women are the ones that are leading in churches,
and it's like that. And it's not that it's so bad. Like, not saying that women can't lead things. Like,
no, but men need to step up and take their role back
because
from
it's
women.
Out of order, right? Yes. And it's back to what we were saying, that then instruction, right? Where fathers not first judge your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord, and that's the direction and order of it. So it's like once you start doing things, taking the right steps, then things start going better.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, if the church would step up, then obviously the biggest role that the church would have is teaching, discipleship.
Yeah.
Teaching them who God is and who Jesus was, and how this is how you should, and just that identity, because a lot of people don't think that they're worthy of it.
Yeah. And I would say that if you're not in a church body that you feel like you have this community, then you need to find a new body to be a part of. And I'm so thankful that where we're at right now, like where God has placed us, that in the youth ministry that we're part of, we have too many male leaders because that's not normally what you see. Normally you see ministries begging for men to sign up.
Well, it's the leadership, right? I mean, and it just feels, and again, this isn't a men are better than women kind of thing. It just feels like the men are they're more willing to fulfill that role, to where they're not passive, to where they're not like, oh, it's the kids thing, so let the women do it, that kind of thing. To whereas like the youth group that I was in, my uncle was there, but for the most part, it was all the women that did it. And it was like, there was no boys group, girls
and basically
group.
All of those boys that were in it were boys that were being raised by fatherless homes.
Yeah, well,
in a
sense. Yeah, in a sense they were.
Yeah.
Correct. So, I mean, and that's, again, like where we are, just seeing that has been a good example to me. And it like just verifies what I'm reading, and then versus what I've lived, versus what feels right, versus what it should be. And it's like all that coming together, like it really makes sense.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening.
So, and again, like from the outside, a lot of this stuff looks crazy. And it's like, I can remember growing up thinking about like the Jesus freaks, right? The Bible thumpers and all this and that. And like, it's just, you're going to hell. And it's like, it was never taught to us that way. So it was like, I never had a fear of it.
Yeah.
And it was like, just luckily, I was blessed with that Holy Spirit intervention plenty of times, because there's a ridiculous amount of dumb things that I did. And most of that was going fast. And that was fun. I still do that even on foot.
You do everything fast.
But
I'll be like 2 miles behind you when we're walking through the parking lot. I'm like, hello. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just used to running. But that's what, but like his intervention there. And it's like, obviously my parents would say this, people in the neighborhood would comment and say things, but like I didn't have that fear. So it's like, I'm just lucky that, and I don't even want to use lucky, because that's luck doesn't exist.
Secular.
Exactly. Luck doesn't exist. The old habits, right?
Yeah.
But
God is sovereign. Yeah.
That intervention that he stepped in and he put those limits on me. And so, yeah. Yeah.
And he protected you from yourself. And he does.
Because a lot of the guidance I had was, do as I say, not as I do. That's a hard one to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been one thing that I've really I'm not going to say that to my kids.
And I mean, I'm guilty of it, because it's like, you feel like I'm the dad, I'm the whatever, I have these rights, and you haven't earned that right yet. And
I don't think I've ever said that. Like, I've had a lot of flaws in my parenting. I've never actually
said it, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, I've said things jokingly, to James. He gets things more than the other two do. Yeah. But I don't think I've ever said it and meant it, but I have done it. Like, I am guilty of it. So.
Yeah. Well, you're a good dad.
Well, thank
and like
you.
I said today, that had I been able to pick a dad for myself, I would have picked you.
Well, thank you. I couldn't do it without you.
I know.
My better half.
Because I'm your other half.
My better half. All right.
So we will...
Lots more to come.
Yes. So hopefully you enjoyed this intro to fatherlessness, and I really encourage you to tune into the other episodes, because we're just going to go in deeper to how this affects those different aspects, like I said, because we don't realize the power that it has in a kid's life for them to be raised in an environment with two parents. And so I really just hope that this encourages you to continue doing the hard thing, because parenting is not easy and it's hard. And also, like, wives, like, put some value on your husbands too, because yes, we have hard jobs as mothers, we do, but there's so much that goes into being a father that we don't understand. And I feel like we live in a society and a culture where women are more supported and encouraged in their roles. And we live in a society and culture that is quick to tear down men and what their roles are supposed to be. So I think that as women, we can step into that gap and encourage the men around us that they're doing a good job and empower them. Yes. And I'm going to cry.
Oh, don't do that. But, and I think more of a discussion as far as, not just the father thing, because obviously we lead by example and in our behavior, is we can kind of emphasize the husband and wife dynamic.
Yeah.
I guess the next one. So.
All right. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. And just let us know what you thought about it. As long as it's good feedback, we want it.
No. We'll listen to all of it.
We'll listen to all of it.
Just make a comment. It's the internet. You can say whatever you want to say.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, y'all. So that is it for us. And we will be back next week with another episode. 1 in 4 children in America will go to bed tonight without a father. That's over 18 million children. And every number is a face, a name, and a story. Fatherlessness is a silent epidemic that is shaping our culture, and it's time that we start talking about it. We can't fix what we won't face, so let's face it together. Over the next several weeks, we will look at each of the effects of fatherlessness one by one and talk about how we, the church, can step into the gap.